One is the incredibly competitive top disciple of the sect, while the other is a hopelessly lazy, slacker senior brother. But thanks to a routine mission down the mountain, these two complete opposites unexpectedly crossed paths. In his past life, Hua Qingyun literally dropped dead on the spot from working extreme overtime, only to find himself reborn. He had become a core disciple of the Azure Cloud Sword sect. Swearing never to repeat his past mistakes, he made a solemn vow, absolutely no working overtime in this new world. And honestly, the heavens seemed to take pity on him. In this life, he was blessed with absolute genius-level cultivation talent. Even if he slacked off all day, every day, breaking through to the next level was as easy as taking a sip of water. You see, in this world, cultivation realms are divided into low, mid, and high tiers. Most ordinary disciples are stuck in the Qi refining or spirit transformation realms. Above those are the Soul Gathering realm, Spirit Palace realm, Violet Palace realm, and finally, the Immortal Ascension realm. Once a cultivator reaches the Spirit Palace realm, they are fully qualified to fight for a core disciple position in any sect. As for the higher level Violet Palace realm, well, here in the Azure Cloud Sword sect, that is just the standard requirement for an elite core disciple. But Hua Qingyun, just so he could slack off in peace, he deliberately sealed his cultivation at the Spirit Palace realm. This made him rank dead last among the core disciples. Naturally, all the outer disciples relentlessly pushed themselves, targeting his spot. Why? Because sect rules clearly state, if you can defeat just one core disciple during the grand sect competition, you get to take their place completely. Today, Hua Qingyun was napping under a tree just like always, when someone told him the sect master wanted to see him. He wanted to ask about the details of yesterday's mission. Turns out, since Hua Qingyun was ranked dead last, he was only assigned the easiest, babysitting tasks to carry the outer disciples. But who would have thought? They would run straight into Ancestor Xianxia, a level 7 Violet Palace expert from the demonic sect. Now, just so he could clock out on time, Hua Qingyun casually sliced the guy down to a mere remnant soul with a single strike. He was about to swing one last time to finish him off entirely, when the shift end bell suddenly rang. Sticking strictly to his absolute no overtime principle, he just shrugged and let Ancestor Xianxia escape. Turning to his wide-eyed fanboy junior, he asked, "Hey, you didn't tell anyone about me nearly one-shotting that demonic old guy, right?" Hearing his junior swear on his life that he had not, Hua Qingyun proudly grabbed his shoulder. "Good boy, I'll teach you a trick or two next time I'm free." With that said, he casually strolled off, leaving the fanboy staring at his incredibly cool silhouette. Meanwhile, in the main hall, this was the residence of the sect's absolute strongest, Wen Jian. He was a peerless master at the 6th level of the Immortal Ascension realm. People called him the Azure Cloud Sword God, but honestly, Hua Qingyun was not scared of him in the slightest. In fact, they were pretty good buddies in private, all because Hua Qingyun had accidentally discovered a secret. This dignified, godlike master was actually a massive tea addict. Using his past life experience of growing little succulents, Hua Qingyun had successfully cultivated some premium spirit tea. This got Wen Jian eating right out of his palm. After all, sucking up to the boss is survival rule number 1 for any corporate slave. After happily accepting the tea, Wen Jian cleared his throat, blushing slightly. "So, did you happen to confiscate anything interesting during yesterday's mission?" Hua Qingyun did not waste time. He tossed over something he had looted right off the demonic sect disciples. Seeing the item, Wen Jian's face went pale. A blood-shattering orb? Little Hua, do you have any idea what this means?" But before the sect master could even finish, Hua Qingyun instantly crossed his arms in an X shape. "Nope, don't know, don't wanna know. And I definitely don't care." Dropping that, he spun around and sprinted straight for the exit. "If the sect master has nothing else for me, this humble employee is heading home." Instantly, Wen Jian's furious roar echoed through the entire hall. He yelled right at Hua Qingyun, "I know you are an absolute genius at growing spirit tea, but you are still a core disciple. You can't just be this incredibly lazy. Last week was supposed to be your turn to teach sword techniques to the juniors. Why the hell did you skip it?" A drop of cold sweat rolled down Hua Qingyun's cheek. He nervously explained that when it was his turn, sticking strictly to his 9-to-5 schedule, with absolutely no overtime, that was his golden rule. "Please understand, sect master." Hearing that this was actually his excuse, Wen Jian's blood boiled. He furiously snapped at Hua Qingyun. Just because he skipped his sword practice, 4 hallmasters had come complaining to him. They were demanding to strip him of his core disciple status. Hearing this, Hua Qingyun's voice trembled with suppressed joy. Did they really say that? Wen Jian realized he might have been a bit too harsh. But just as he was about to comfort him, he was met with an absurdly overjoyed face. "Oh, that's fantastic." Hua Qingyun thought to himself, "If I get demoted to an inner disciple, let's see who dares to complain about me slacking off then. Sect master, when exactly will I be stripped of my core disciple status?" Hearing this, Wen Jian's blood pressure skyrocketed. He pointed a trembling finger at Hua Qingyun and roared, "In your dreams, kid." Since the founding of the Qingyun sword sect, there has never been a single precedent of a core disciple being demoted. If I strip you of your title, wouldn't that just be a massive slap in the face to me and the elders? Hearing this, Hua Qingyun was absolutely devastated. He knew it was too good to be true. Suddenly, a soft, sweet voice echoed through the hall. Wen Jian's face lit up. Ah, Xianxia, you're here. The girl stepped into the hall, bathed in the warm sunlight, her expression incredibly serious. Tens of thousands of inner disciples train day and night, just for a chance to become a core disciple. Senior brother Hua, yet you want to throw away this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Why would you do that? This was Yu Jianxin, the top core disciple of the Qingyun sword sect. Not only was she a gorgeous girl, but at her young age, she had already reached the 4th level of the Purple Mansion realm. She was widely regarded as the future of the sect. And as for him, just a slacker disciple, Hua Qingyun cleared his throat. Junior sister Yu, there is something you don't know. I've been stuck at the Spirit Palace realm for ages. So, I wanted to start over from the inner sect and completely rebuild my foundation. That way, I can break through my bottleneck and come back stronger than ever. As the saying goes, reviewing the past helps you understand the future. No way, I never knew you were so driven, senior brother. To think you've considered the path of cultivation so deeply. You're completely different from the rumors. I've been so shallow. Watching this exchange, Sect Master Wen Jian was completely speechless. He forced a stiff smile onto his face. Wah, my boy. The reason I called Jianxin here is because the Hall Masters have a specific demand for you. Hearing this, Hua Qingyun glared warily at the Sect Master. What kind of demand? They want you to team up with Jianxin for your next mission. Hopefully, her hardcore work ethic will rub off on you. A dead silence fell over the hall, save for the rustling of leaves outside. Hua Qingyun looked horrified. Sect Master, you've gotta be kidding me, right? Everyone knew that the insane grind culture currently plaguing the sect was single-handedly started by Yu Jianxin. She was the absolute queen of tryhards. He and a workaholic like her were like oil and water. How the hell could they survive a mission together? Seeing Hua Qingyun panicking, Wen Jian pressed on. Hua, Jianxin is our top core disciple. Do you know how many people are lining up just to get some pointers from her? And now you get to go on a whole mission with her. It's a golden opportunity. What on earth are you complaining about? Hearing this, Hua Qingyun frantically scrambled for an excuse. He quickly claimed he was just worried about being too weak. He didn't want to be a burden and ruin his junior sister's cultivation progress. He turned to her, his eyes practically begging. Junior sister, you don't want a dead weight like me holding you back, right? Who would have thought that what met his eyes was a face full of pure joy? She told Hua Qingyun that he was completely overthinking things. Since they were all disciples of the same sect, they should obviously look out for each other and improve together. Then, with a cheeky grin, she added, Senior brother Hua, you could also use this mission to prove yourself and crush all those nasty rumors going around. Red alarm bells started ringing wildly in Hua Qingyun's head. He saw right through it. This junior sister was totally trying to guilt-trip him into joining the rat race. Smack. Hua Qingyun firmly cupped his hands together in respect. With a dead serious face, he said, Sect Master, going on a mission is fine and all. But I'm just really worried that no one will take care of my tea leaves. At that moment, Wen Jian's face started twitching. Under Hua Qingyun's incredibly nervous gaze, he actually flashed an okay hand sign. Hua Qingyun stared at this cross-era gesture, completely stunned. Right after, Wen Jian spoke in a serious tone. Qingyun, as long as you can wrap up this mission flawlessly, I will personally grant you a 3-day vacation. Hua Qingyun's pupils instantly dilated. A rush of wild energy hit him. Every ounce of worry on his face vanished completely, replaced by the fiery passion of a true slacker. Hua Qingyun tightly grabbed Wen Jian's hands. Sect Master, there's no time to lose. Hurry and tell me the mission details and location. I, Hua Qingyun, will walk through fire and water for you, without a single moment of hesitation. 1:15 noon. A few drops of sweat trickled down Yu Jianxin's stunningly beautiful face. A lazy drawl drifted from behind her. Junior sister Yu, you sure are working hard. Panting heavily, Yu Jianxin turned to look at him. Hua Qingyun casually remarked, if you don't take a noon nap, you'll be completely drained in the afternoon. Junior sister, this was the very first clash of their ideals. As far as Yu Jianxin was concerned, cultivation meant seizing every spare second. She had arrived here right on the dot at noon, and already swung her sword 3,000 times. But you, senior brother, as a Spirit Palace realm cultivator, you actually still need sleep just like a mortal? Her little face was full of fiery determination. She scolded Hua Qingyun for being way too much of a slacker. Feeling like he was getting guilt-tripped all over again, Hua Qingyun just threw up double thumbs ups and said, you're absolutely right, junior sister. I'll definitely double my training later. Meanwhile, he thought to himself, how is junior sister Yu so young? Yet she nags exactly like an elder? Seeing that her words went right in one ear and out the other. Yu Jianxin let out a long sigh. It's getting late. Let's just head out. Two figures instantly shot up into the sky, blurring into streaks of light. The mission Wen Jian had assigned them was to investigate a massive string of villager disappearances over in the Tianyan mountain range. And the Tianyan mountain range just so happened to be right next to Qingqiu city, the very place that had been wiped out by a blood sacrifice. Hua Qingyun strongly suspected that the demonic sect was behind this mess, too. Hearing Yu Jianxin confidently tell him not to worry, and that she'd protect him on this mission, Hua Qingyun was absolutely thrilled. With those magic words from Yu Jianxin, it meant he could just totally slack off this time. Not only did he get to be totally carried, but he'd also score a 3-day vacation at the end. He was seriously winning so hard this time. Since they had headed out right around noon, and had been traveling for quite a while, the sunlight was already starting to turn a crimson red. Yu Jianxin suggested that they first go find the local villagers to dig up some clues. But instead, Hua Qingyun just rummaged around in his robes for a moment, and pulled out a small iron box. Seeing this, Yu Jianxin stared blankly and asked, "Senior brother Hua, what exactly are you planning?" But Hua Qingyun completely ignored her question. Instead, the countdown began. 4, 3, 2, 1. Countdown finished. Hua Qingyun put the iron box away, looking quite pleased as he muttered, "Right on time." Leaving Yu Jianxin staring in sheer amazement, he walked off into the distance. "I'm going to get some rest. I'll leave the villager interrogations to you, junior sister. See you tomorrow." Meanwhile, soft rustling echoed through the streets. Hua Qingyun stepped into an inn called the Hidden Fragrance Pavilion, asking the innkeeper for a room. 1 tael of silver. The innkeeper's cold, indifferent voice reached Hua Qingyun's ears. The exact moment the key was handed over, Hua Qingyun narrowed his eyes slightly. This guy was definitely sketchy, but as long as the bed was fine, he didn't care. Before long, Hua Qingyun was lying in bed, wondering, how is junior sister Yu's investigation going, I wonder. An unknown amount of time passed before the sound of an argument drifted up from downstairs. Hua Qingyun jolted upright. That voice outside sounded awfully familiar. Down in the lobby, Yu Jianxin was staring anxiously at the innkeeper. Is it because I haven't offered enough silver? Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the tension. Junior sister Yu, since the innkeeper says they're fully booked, stop giving him a hard time. Yu Jianxin's face lit up with surprise. Senior brother Hua, what are you doing here? Hua Qingyun ignored the question and glanced at the innkeeper. Innkeeper, my junior sister will be sharing my room. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Hearing this, Yu Jianxin stared at Hua Qingyun in absolute shock. The innkeeper scowled, turning his head away. Suit yourself. Right after that, Yu Jianxin blinked her big eyes, murmuring to herself. Sharing a room with senior brother Hua? Her small face instantly turned beet red. Hua Qingyun didn't pay any mind to her reaction. He just flatly told her, if you don't want to sleep on the streets, then follow me, still blushing furiously. Yu Jianxin sneaked glances at Hua Qingyun as she nervously trailed behind him. In stark contrast, Hua Qingyun's expression was completely calm. He didn't show a single ounce of emotion. Seeing this, little Yu Jianxin patted her chest, trying to comfort herself. It's not like we're doing anything scandalous. What am I so shy about? Besides, with senior brother Hua's incredible cultivation level, he can easily protect me. Imagination is always a beautiful thing. But the moment they actually stepped into the room, seeing her standing there awkwardly, Hua Qingyun asked, have you had dinner? Want some? That single question seemed to flip some kind of switch inside little Yu Jianxin. All her nervousness vanished. Putting on a highly dignified, elderly tone, she lectured him, Senior brother. We cultivators must purify our hearts and quiet our desires. We must reject the worldly temptations of food. Only when our inner spirit finds absolute peace can we. But before she could finish, a pastry was shoved right into her mouth. Instantly, her little mouth let out muffled *mmph. Sounds. By the time she chewed and swallowed the treat, a look of pure, blissful satisfaction was plastered all over her face. When she finally realized what happened, she flushed bright red and glared at Hua Qingyun. How could you ambush me with a pastry? Yu Jianxin couldn't even bring herself to look him in the eye. Though it was really delicious. She quickly turned her head away, stubbornly puffing out her cheeks. But, such mortal food brings absolutely no benefit to our cultivation. You really shouldn't eat so much of it. Watching her act so cute, Hua Qingyun had to bite back a smile. He spread his hands out casually and asked, Junior sister, have you ever actually thought about it? Does merely avoiding mortal food and locking away worldly desires, so, does that mean my cultivation will progress by leaps and bounds? Yu Jianxin asked. Well, isn't it obvious? We both walk in this realm. Do you really think we can just hide from the ways of the world whenever we please? Blindly running away will only leave you exhausted, and scared of your own shadow. Your cultivation won't advance a single inch. Hearing this, Yu Jianxin questioned him once more. But, if I don't clear my mind and reject all worldly desires, won't I just lose myself in the mortal realm? If I let temptation drag me down, how am I supposed to cultivate at all? Seeing Yu Jianxin take the bait, Hua Qingyun smoothly continued, in my eyes, a true cultivator dares to face the temptations of reality head-on. They have the courage to experience them. He then pointed at the plate of pastries on the table. Take these sweets, for example. If you're terrified that their sweet taste will corrupt your mind, then you should absolutely eat them. Get used to the flavor. Once you can look at these treats as nothing but ordinary, and remain completely unfazed by them, only then have you stepped into the true realm of cultivation. Clear your mind, and the truth will reveal itself. Meet truth with truth, and all of life's forms will naturally unfold. Remain untainted by these forms, and you will find absolute freedom. When this freedom becomes your everyday state, that is the true natural way. Finally, successfully brainwashed by Hua Qingyun, little Yu Jianxin's innocent, wide eyes gradually glazed over with a hint of utter stupidity. Having finished his speech, Hua Qingyun proudly glanced at his junior sister. Oh, crap, he'd gotten carried away and spouted way too much nonsense. Did the poor girl's brain just short-circuit? Suddenly, Yu Jianxin shot up from her seat, proudly declaring to Hua Qingyun that she had finally reached an epiphany. Only by facing temptation head-on, and then casting it aside, can one return to true purity and comprehend the great Tao. With that said, she lunged at the pastries, aggressively stuffing her face with both hands. By the time Hua Qingyun processed what was happening, it was way too late. The plate was completely wiped clean. Afterwards, Hua Qingyun sat there looking exactly like a wronged, pouting little housewife. Pouting miserably, he told Yu Jianxin that she'd just have to make do sleeping on the cold floor tonight. Yu Jianxin just covered her mouth and giggled, even letting out a satisfied little burp midway through. She brushed him off, saying she didn't need to sleep anyway. Sitting in meditation would be more than enough. Under the dead silent night sky, the senior brother and junior sister formed a hilariously stark contrast. Suddenly, a dark silhouette crept up to their door, pulling a stick of incense from its robes. The figure lit it and planted it right by their entrance. It wasn't long before, thick smoke seeped through the door cracks, creeping into the room. The bizarre, sweet scent instantly jerked Yu Jianxin awake from her meditation. Suddenly, she realized something was horribly wrong with her body. Crap, it's poison, and it's incredibly potent. Even with her impressive purple mansion realm cultivation, it only took a few seconds before she collapsed helplessly onto the floor. Right on the verge of blacking out, Yu Jianxin desperately shot a glance toward her senior brother. She tried to choke out a warning for him to run, but to her absolute shock, Hua Qingyun was sitting there completely unfazed, just staring right back at her in dead silence. Outside, the howling wind whipped through the trees, making the leaves rustle violently under the dark sky. Meanwhile, the terrified innkeeper was trembling violently, groveling on the ground before the dark figure. My lord, the disciples of the Azure Cloud Sword sect. I've already knocked them out with the spirit-severing incense. One of them is none other than their top true disciple, Yu Jianxin. As for the other one, his identity is unknown. I only heard them call him Senior Brother Hua. Flash of surprise gleamed in the dark figure's piercing crimson eyes. I never expected you to actually take down Yu Jianxin. But as for this so-called Senior Brother Hua, he had absolutely no idea who that was. He must be just some lowly lackey, right? The shopkeeper stammered, his voice trembling as he thanked the man. Thanks to your lordship's concealment talisman, they didn't spot us. The man chuckled darkly, telling the shopkeeper he had done a tremendous job this time. Hearing this, a glimmer of hope and joy flashed in the shopkeeper's eyes. He eagerly asked, My lord, what about my wife and child? The dark-robed man slowly leapt down, telling the shopkeeper to put his mind at ease. They are perfectly fine. In fact, I'll send you to reunite with them right now. The shopkeeper had barely uttered a word of thanks when a streak of light abruptly pierced straight through his chest. The man licked the drops of blood that had splattered onto his fingers, a twisted, maniacal grin spreading across his face. He muttered that the final sacrifice was finally complete. In an instant, two shadowy figures, number 3 and number 4, materialized behind him. A ruthless glint flashed in the dark-robed man's eyes. Go to the inn, drag those two brats from the Azure Cloud Sword sect to me. Meanwhile, inside the room, Yu Jianxin slowly fluttered her eyes open. Looking at the man before her, she asked in confusion, Senior Brother Hua? Suddenly snapping fully awake, she bolted upright and tried to grab Hua Qingyun to make a run for it. Hua Qingyun didn't move an inch. He just sat there quietly, watching this total goofball. Suddenly, Yu Jianxin realized something was off. She blinked and asked why he was perfectly fine. Logically, with his lower cultivation level, he should have passed out way before she did. Hearing her confusion, Hua Qingyun calmly explained that he used a deep breathing technique while sleeping, rather than actively circulating his spiritual energy to meditate like she did. Because of that, he hadn't inhaled any of the spirit-severing incense. After waiting for quite a while, and noticing that the attacker wasn't making a move, he simply cleared the toxic smoke from the room. He had then cured her of the poison. Staring at the burnt remains of the incense on the table, Yu Jianxin's jaw dropped in sheer disbelief. No way, spirit-severing incense? Anyone below the 5th tier of the Purple Mansion realm would struggle to fight off this poison. Hua Qingyun sighed softly, speaking in a lazy tone. Junior sister, you're still way too naive about how the real world works. You really need to keep your guard up. If you had been on a solo mission this time, the consequences would have been disastrous. Hearing his words, Yu Jianxin hurriedly cupped her hands and bowed deeply in gratitude. Hua Qingyun's expression softened as he handed her a warm cup of tea. There's no need to be so formal, junior sister. Here, drink some tea and warm yourself up. Yu Jianxin respectfully took the cup with both hands. She thought to herself, rumor has it that senior brother Hua is nothing but a notoriously lazy core disciple. But to my surprise, not only did he casually drop wisdom that enlightened my cultivation, he also stayed sharp enough to save my life. She then stole a shy glance at Hua Qingyun. He's so thoughtful, and honestly, pretty handsome, too. It's just a shame about his low cultivation level. Suddenly, a bright red blush crept across her soft, youthful cheeks. Wait. What on earth am I thinking? Hua Qingyun turned to look at her, casually asking how she was holding up. Startled, Yu Jianxin waved her hands frantically. Thank you for your concern, senior brother. I'm completely fine now. Her mind raced. Could it be that senior brother has feelings for me? But just as the romantic tension in the room began to build, a blinding streak of purple light illuminated the entire village. A shadowy figure, clearly a woman, was hurtling right toward the two of them at breakneck speed. Yu Jianxin instantly picked up on the terrifying killing intent. She whipped around, fiercely shoving Hua Qingyun behind her to protect him. Senior brother, watch out! She yelled in a panic, only to turn back and realize her beloved senior brother had already tucked himself into bed. Well, since you're fully recovered, I'll leave this to you, junior sister. After all, I'm strictly off the clock right now. The window burst open, and Yu Jianxin flew out into the night. She didn't even have time to be mad at his laziness, because judging from the enemy's oppressive aura, their attacker was an elite expert at the Purple Mansion realm, with Hua Qingyun only being at the Spirit Palace realm. Going up there is pure suicide. The fierce wind howls violently. A slender figure holds a sword in one hand, looking as if a single strike could pierce through heaven and earth. Yu Jianxin grips his long sword tightly. Just a moment ago, he actually thought senior brother Hua cared about him. But nope, it's just trouble knocking on the door. You guys showed up at the perfect time. Violent spiritual energy surges through the blade, instantly swallowing the two figures. Blue and black, two completely different auras clash fiercely in the woods. As the dust settles, it's the 4th-ranked sect of the Eastern Wasteland. Recognizing the robes of the Purple Spirit sect, Yu Jianxin stares coldly and demands an answer. Why are you two fellow cultivators from the Purple Spirit sect here? But then, he notices their lifeless, hollow eyes. They look exactly like puppets. Yu Jianxin gasps. Blood puppets. Their souls have been sealed by dark magic. They've been turned into mindless puppets. And this kind of forbidden art has always belonged to the demon sect. Now, Yu Jianxin is absolutely certain. The disappearances in Cloudroot Village were definitely the demon sect's doing. He fully unleashes his cultivation base. The forest instantly turns into a battlefield. From their exchange of blows, Yu Jianxin can tell their cultivation is at least at the 3rd or 4th tier of the Purple Mansion realm. He lightly taps his toes against the fallen leaves. Wrapped in swirling blue spiritual energy, pure anger and killing intent flash across Yu Jianxin's face. Perfect timing, because he is seriously pissed off right now. Azure Cloud Sword Art, Cloud Piercing, Moon Severing Strike. The violent spiritual energy howls through the trees. Sensing the danger, the two puppets instinctively leap into the air. They try to dodge the attack this way, but Yu Jianxin's eyes turn icy cold. He lightly taps his fingers in the air. Scatter. The attack suddenly splits apart. It shatters into countless beams of spiritual light, rushing straight up into the sky. As the strike ends, two figures in shredded robes slam hard into the ground. Little does Yu Jianxin know, his good senior brother is quietly watching him using his divine sense. Right now, a smirk plays on Hua Qingyun's face. He chuckles to himself. Watching a fight with divine sense is just too convenient. I don't even have to open my eyes. Back in the forest, seeing her male companion get hurt somehow brings a flicker of life back to the Purple Spirit sect woman's eyes. Swirling purple spiritual energy erupts around her. She mutters under her breath. How dare you? How dare you hurt my Feng? Watching the woman slowly get back on her feet, Yu Jianxin is stunned. She hasn't fully turned into a blood puppet. She still has a shred of her own consciousness. Suddenly, a massive iron rod appears in her hands, her eyes burning with sheer malice. I'll kill you, she screams. The very next second, the ground beneath her completely shatters from the force of her step. Massive momentum launches her right above Yu Jianxin in the blink of an eye. Clang! The deafening sound of clashing metal echoes through the woods. Struggling against the weight, Yu Jianqin glares up at her. How the hell is she swinging such a heavy weapon? The relentless sound of metal smashing against metal rings out. The shockwaves from the blue and purple auras rip through the battlefield, tearing the ground apart in every direction. Such a high-speed, intense clash. And it all happens in just a few split seconds. Yu Jianqin's arms are completely numb from the impact. But the purple-haired woman attacks like a tireless beast. Another overwhelming strike crashes down toward him. Boom! A sonic boom rips through the air as Yu Jianqin barely dodges the hit in time. He presses 2 fingers together and slides them straight down the blade of his sword. I think that's enough warming up. His icy voice echoes through the clearing. Back at the inn, Hua Qingyun keeps his eyes shut, enjoying the show like he's watching a blockbuster movie. He shakes his head in admiration. Yu Jianqin really lives up to his title as the head disciple. After just a few seconds of trading blows, he's already figured out exactly how strong they are, even though both of them are at the 4th tier of the Purple Mansion realm. That Purple Spirit Sect disciple is a blood puppet. Her mind is completely sealed away. She can only fight on pure instinct. Man, she is at a huge disadvantage. By now, Yu Jianqin had already sheathed her sword, while a storm of furious spiritual energy raged around her. Sensing the danger, the purple-haired woman lunged forward, desperately trying to interrupt her. Inside the room, Hua Qingyun quietly opened his eyes, looking a bit exasperated. It seems junior sister Yu hasn't noticed the real danger, he muttered. A gentle breeze brushed past the window, sweeping a few fallen leaves through the cracks and into the room. He caught one in his hand. This should be enough. Meanwhile, out in the woods, as Yu Jianqin slowly drew her sheathed sword, the ocean of spiritual energy swirling around her grew incredibly fierce. Azure Cloud Sword Art, Draw Stance. A massive, overwhelming tidal wave of sword aura erupted in an instant. Before the purple-haired woman could even react, the strike was already upon her. Her slender figure was completely swallowed by the raging tide of sword aura. The ground shattered beneath them, and as the dust finally settled, Yu Jianqin slowly walked toward the woman. She had deliberately held back on that strike. From what she could tell, the two of them hadn't fully turned into blood puppets yet. There was still a chance to awaken their true spirits. But just as she was walking toward the woman, a trembling hand suddenly raised up. Swoosh! A beam of purple light shot right behind Yu Jianqin. By the time she noticed, it was too late. Her spiritual energy shield was instantly shattered to pieces. Right at that critical, life and death moment, a flash of green light streaked by. Deflected by the green light, the attack veered off course, narrowly grazing right past her face. A deafening explosion roared behind her. Yu Jianqin spun around in absolute terror. If that had hit her, she would have been critically injured. What was that green light just now? She thought, though her body didn't stop moving for a single second. In the very next second, she appeared right behind the purple-haired man. Was that a leaf? With a quick twist of her wrist, she slammed the hilt of her sword into the back of his neck. Who exactly saved me? A short while later, Yu Jianqin hauled the two attackers back to the inn. She sat there with a heavy, thoughtful expression. Meanwhile, Hua Qingyun lazily propped himself up. Looks like you've already taken care of it, he said. Yu Jianqin swallowed hard, hesitating before she spoke. Senior brother Hua, earlier, were you? Hua Qingyun cut her right off. I was lying here the whole time. He gave her a curious look. Why, what's wrong? Yu Jianqin quickly waved her hands. Oh, nothing. Deep down, she figured she was just overthinking things. Senior brother Hua is only at the 6th stage of the Spirit Palace realm, after all. There's no way he could pull off a move like that. She then suggested taking the two of them back to the sect, so the elders could set up the cleansing exorcism array. That would purge the blood puppet curse. Still, she felt incredibly frustrated. If we do that, those bastards from the demon sect will completely get away. They'll just go ruin some other place. Hua Qingyun's expression darkened. On the surface, he said, for the sake of the innocent people. But in his heart, he was screaming, for my 3-day vacation. He walked over to the two unconscious attackers. Looks like I'll have to step in. Yu Jianqin stared at her senior brother in total confusion, asking what on earth he was trying to do. Hua Qingyun casually explained that he was going to use his divine sense to enter their seas of consciousness. I'm going to rip out the blood puppet seeds. Yu Jianqin stared at him in pure disbelief. Are you out of your mind? She yelled. The sea of consciousness holds a cultivator's true spirit. One tiny mistake, and their souls will completely shatter. But before she could even finish, Hua Qingyun had already slapped his hands onto the tops of their heads. Relax, junior sister. Seeing this, Yu Jianqin panicked even more. She desperately asked if he was actually trying to rip out both of their blood puppet seeds at the exact same time. But the only answer she got was Hua Qingyun's wildly confident smirk. Saving a life is an emergency. Multitasking is the only way to be fast enough. Yu Jianqin cried out in alarm. The point isn't how fast you are, right? It's whether it's actually safe or not. But who would have thought, right after he said that, Hua Qingyun was already completely finished with the procedure. He casually said, "All done." Yu Jianqin just stared, screaming in absolute disbelief. This sight completely shattered his understanding of the world. The blood fiend seed was buried deep within their sea of consciousness. Extracting it without killing the host was like finding a needle in a haystack. Even the inner sect elders wouldn't dare attempt such a delicate procedure. Moments later, his face flushed with excitement, as he eagerly asked his senior brother when exactly he had mastered such an incredible technique. Hua Qingyun couldn't just admit he invented a brand new method, right? So, to keep his secret safe, he casually made up an excuse. He told Yu Jianqin that it was just some torn manuscript he had stumbled upon in the sect's ancient library. He thought it looked fun, so he just decided to learn it. But this scared poor little Yu Jianqin half to death. He blurted out, "You dare use an incomplete technique? Senior brother, you are literally playing with fire here." A little while later, the two disciples from the Purple Spirit sect finally regained consciousness. Once they found out that Hua Qingyun and his junior were from the Azure Cloud Sword sect. The woman named Xian remembered that they had been captured by an elder of the demon sect. A week ago, just like Hua Qingyun, the two of them had been ordered to investigate the missing villagers. After tracking the clues, they stumbled upon a demon sect elder who was using the villagers' blood for a dark ritual. But unfortunately, they walked right into a trap he had set up beforehand. They were quickly overpowered, and to their horror, the bastard used forbidden magic to turn them into blood fiends. Finishing her story, Xian respectfully cupped her hands in deep gratitude. Seeing this, Yu Jianqin frantically waved his hands, telling her not to thank him. "The one who saved you is my senior brother." After hearing Yu Jianqin's words, Xian turned to thank Hua Qingyun personally. Hua Qingyun simply raised a hand, smoothly telling her there was no need for formalities. But then, putting on a highly troubled expression, Hua Qingyun sighed and told them that saving their lives had cost him a massive amount of rare mystical ingredients. It cost roughly 30,000 top-grade spirit stones. Little Yu Jianqin puffed out his cheeks, glaring at his senior brother. He thought to himself, "You literally just waved your hand. You didn't use a single rare ingredient. They aren't stupid, you know." Yet, to his absolute shock, Xian thanked Hua Qingyun once again. She even swore that once she returned to her sect, she would absolutely deliver spirit stones of equal value. Hearing this, little Yu Jianqin was completely dumbfounded. Beside him, Hua Qingyun flashed the standard sly grin of a shady merchant. What little Yu Jianqin didn't know was that the universally recognized purifying exorcism array used to break the blood fiend curse required at least 50,000 top-grade spirit stones just to set up. 30,000 was already a massive discount between friends. It was basically free money. Seeing his senior brother's cheeky grin, little Yu Jianqin shot him a resentful glare. Seeing that the situation had settled down for now, Hua Qingyun asked for more details about that demon sect elder. A flash of bitter frustration crossed Xian's eyes. That demon sect elder's name is Mo Zan. His actual combat skills are complete garbage. I could easily beat him in a fair fight. But that coward is incredibly sneaky with traps and poisons. We only got taken down because of his toxic smoke. Hearing this, Hua Qingyun snapped his fingers. "Oh, well then, that's easy. I just so happen to have a special pill that makes you completely immune to poison gas for 6 hours. Are you three confident you can take down that demon sect elder?" Hearing this, Xian was absolutely thrilled. She swore that if she was immune to the poison, she could crush that sneaky bastard in a matter of minutes. But then, she blinked her big eyes, suddenly realizing something felt a bit off. She looked at Hua Qingyun in total confusion. "Wait, why did you say the three of us? Fellow Taoist, aren't you coming with us?" Hua Qingyun instantly dropped his awkward expression, claiming that saving them just now had drained a massive amount of his spiritual energy. With that, he pressed a hand to his forehead, sighing that he'd probably need a good long sleep to recover. Hearing this, Yu Jianqin desperately fought back the urge to punch him in the face, while Xian and his companion hurriedly apologized to Hua Qingyun. They admitted they were blind for not realizing how much effort he'd put in. A little while later, 3 streaks of light tore across the sky beneath the crescent moon. The moonlight shone through the elixir, giving it the brilliant glow of a gemstone. Xian stared at the elixir in his hand with a doubtful frown. Is this pill really as good as fellow cultivator Hua claimed? In stark contrast, Yu Jianqin's eyes were dead set. He declared that he completely trusted his senior brother. With that, the three of them swallowed the elixirs in unison. Xian rubbed his chin, muttering that it didn't feel any different from a regular pill. The purple-haired man chimed in. Fellow cultivator Hua doesn't seem to have a particularly high cultivation base himself. Not that I don't trust the guy, but... Suddenly, a violent gust of wind howled past. Yu Jianqin's gaze sharpened, gripping his long sword tight. He glanced sharply over his shoulder. The purple-haired man also sensed that something was dead wrong. For the last 10 minutes or so, there hadn't been a single trace of living energy around here. An iron staff instantly materialized in his hands. Xian's face turned grim. Don't tell me. Before he could even finish, a sinister, echoing voice surrounded the three of them. It means you've already walked right into my trap. Suddenly, a deadly glint flashed across Yu Jianshin's eyes. Unleashing a barrage of sword chi toward his flank, he ripped the illusion to shreds. Foul, rotting swamp materialized right beneath their feet. Feeling the suffocating waves of resentful energy rolling off the muck, Yu Jianshin grimly deduced that this black mud was likely refined from the rotting corpses of the dead, trapped right here by the formation. He turned and asked Xian, "Did you hear someone else's voice just now?" Before Xian could even open his mouth, that sinister voice slithered up from right behind Yu Jianshin. Looking for me? To their absolute shock, Mo Zan had actually shown himself willingly. None of the three saw this coming. Xian, naturally, was the most fired up, cursing him out as Mo Zan, "You old bastard." With every breath, Mo Zan merely sized the three of them up in surprise. "To think you managed to purge my blood puppet seed so fast. Looks like the head disciple of the Azure Cloud Sword sect has some hidden treasures on him." With a dark laugh, he added, "But wait, aren't you missing a guy? Did he hear my name and run away with his tail between his legs?" At that moment, Xian totally snapped. He charged straight at Mo Zan, roaring that he alone was more than enough to crush a piece of trash like him. A terrifying surge of power slammed into the ground, sending shattered rocks flying everywhere. Xian stared in confusion at the black mud clinging to his iron staff. A split second later, Mo Zan materialized right beside him. Chuckling darkly, he mocked, "You already fell for this once. I can't believe you fell for it again." Seeing this, the purple-haired man threw himself into the fight, but his attacks couldn't even put a dent in Mo Zan's defenses. Mo Zan sneered, "You righteous sect brats really are dumber than the last. Tell me, how do you like the scent of my bone-corroding incense?" Hearing this, a violent shudder ran down Xian and his companion's spines. But before Mo Zan could gloat for long, a brutal flash of sword light slashed right at him. Mo Zan smugly tried to block it just like he did with the purple-haired man, but in the very next second, the smirk was wiped right off his face. The defense he was so proud of was absolutely obliterated by the blade. As the ground beneath his feet was pulverized into dust, the three of them leapt into the air. Yu Jianshin stared at the massive crater blown into the earth, his face burning with rage. "Did I miss?" A split second later, his expression dropped in absolute horror. The fallen leaves around them were violently corroding away in a thick red mist. "It's poison gas." Meanwhile, in a dark corner, Mo Zan's figure slowly materialized. He wiped the sweat from his face, thinking to himself that Yu Jianshin really was something. Then, he launched himself into the air, bursting into manic laughter as he looked down at the three of them on the ground. "It's no use," he mocked. "You've already inhaled my bone-eating poison. 10 breaths have passed. Now, drop dead." The breeze blew away the dust. Yu Jianshin glared at Mo Zan, her eyes bloodshot. Suddenly, a purple figure appeared right behind him. With the crushing weight of a mountain, a massive strike from a staff slammed brutally into Mo Zan's back. Blood sprayed into the air. The ground trembled violently. Seizing the perfect opportunity, the purple-haired man unleashed his ultimate attack on Mo Zan. A faint scent of blood drifted through the air. Mo Zan struggled to his feet. Staring in absolute disbelief, he yelled at the three of them. "Why aren't you poisoned?" The three of them didn't bother to explain. Xian even stuck out his tongue at him, thinking, Brother Hua's pills are seriously insane. Mo Zan still couldn't accept it. How could his meticulously crafted poison be completely useless? He figured Yu Jianshin must have some hidden artifact protecting her. Looking down at Mo Zan, who was panting like a dying dog, Yu Jianshin's eyes flashed with deadly intent. "This ends here." Her cold voice echoed through the space. But suddenly, a twisted smile crept onto Mo Zan's face. He shot up into the sky and screamed at them, "You're right. The game does end here. Activate the heaven-encompassing blood array." A semi-transparent dome of blood-red light instantly trapped the three of them. Gritting her teeth, Yu Jianshin glared at him. "What is this?" she demanded. Floating above, Mo Zan laughed maniacally. "I told you. You already stepped right into my trap. Number 1, finish them off." Below, a pile of fleshy sludge began to writhe, making a sickening, squelching sound. A terrifying pressure crashed down on the trio. Xian's voice trembled in fear. A 6th stage Violet Palace Blood Fiend? Yu Jianshin remained silent, locking eyes with Blood Fiend number 1. High above, Mo Zan cackled again. "None of you are leaving here alive today. And as for that coward hiding in the inn, I've already sent a 5th stage Violet Palace Blood Fiend to pay him a little visit." Hearing this, the color drained from Yu Jianshin's face. Senior brother Hua was only in the Spirit Palace realm. This was a guaranteed death sentence for him. Meanwhile, moonlight spilled through the window onto Hua Qingyun. Suddenly, a monstrous, crimson figure lunged into his room. One was the unmatched prodigy of the younger generation of swordswomen. The other was a slacker senior brother who did nothing but lay around all day. These complete opposites had somehow ended up fighting side by side. Now that Yu Jianshin knew that her senior brother was being hunted by a 5th stage Violet Palace monster. She completely stopped holding back. Her blazing sword aura slashed toward the fiend. Countless strikes rained down on Blood Fiend number 1, aiming to obliterate it instantly, so she could shatter the array and go save Hua Qingyun. But who could have guessed? This Blood Fiend wasn't just some monster with an inflated, fake cultivation. The instant it blocked her attack, it easily deflected Ziyun's sneak attack with a single hand. A terrifying aura erupted. It was actually at the 7th stage of the Violet Palace realm. Ziyun, along with his artifact, was violently swatted away. The massive force smashed him deep into the ground. Seeing his comrade injured, the purple-haired man roared in absolute rage and charged in. The exact moment the Blood Fiend was bound by purple chains, a deadly flash of sword light struck. It sliced the monster cleanly in half. Yu Jianxin gripped her long sword tightly, staring intensely at number 1 as cold sweat dripped down her beautiful face. But number 1 acted like absolutely nothing happened. Reaching down, it grabbed its own severed lower half. With a hard squeeze, it instantly went back to normal. Before Yu Jianxin could even react, the fully healed Blood Fiend instantly threw a massive punch. The purple-haired man couldn't even dodge. His entire body was smashed right into the ground, knocking him out cold. Seeing this happen, Ziyun charged in like an enraged lioness. Her terrifying speed was so fast, even the Blood Fiend couldn't react in time. But against the Blood Fiend's terrifyingly tough body, her attacks were completely useless. Yu Jianxin rushed up behind her, warning them that they'd be worn down to death by the Blood Fiend's insane regeneration sooner or later. Hearing this, Ziyun looked back at him. She said she had a move that could blast the Blood Fiend to ashes. Yu Jianxin's eyes lit up. Really? But I need time to charge it up. Please, buy me some time. Yu Jianxin's slender figure looked so bleak right now, but a flash of absolute resolve filled his eyes. Alright, leave it to me. Meanwhile, watching the 3 of them being pushed to the brink by his Blood Fiend, Mozan burst into maniacal laughter. He taunted Yu Jianxin's group, daring them to use whatever pathetic tricks they had left. But suddenly, Mozan seemed to sense something. A sly smirk crept onto his face. Oh, number 2 is finished already? Looks like that core disciple is total trash. Just a short while ago, Blood Fiend number 2 had slipped through the window into the room, only to find the bed completely empty. In the very next room, Hua Qingyun had a smug, clever grin on his face. HMPH, trying to make me work overtime? You're way too green for that. Moment he said that, a massive explosion went off right behind him. The smile on Hua Qingyun's face instantly vanished. Number 2, who had just crashed into his room, let out a vicious roar. But then, all 6 of its eyes suddenly widened in shock, staring to the side. Hua Qingyun was just standing there, facepalming. Looking highly annoyed, he snapped at number 2. If you couldn't find anyone, couldn't you just go back? Why do you have to drag everyone else into your sweaty grind? Moments later, number 2's body was completely mangled, and only 3 of its 6 eyes were left intact. Hua Qingyun's cold, detached voice echoed through the room. Oops, I almost one-shotted it. I definitely can't let the demon sect elders sense this. I just want to get a good night's sleep. But you just had to wake me up, didn't you? Muttering that, he grabbed number 2 by the hair, and slowly dragged it towards the window. Well, since you're already here, let me give you a little return gift. Staring out the window at the massive formation in the sky, Hua Qingyun hoisted number 2 up, getting right into a javelin throwing stance. Right then, a single tear rolled down number 2's eye. It looked absolutely pathetic. The next second, it was launched like a red meteor, smashing straight towards Mozan's grand formation. Dusting his hands off, Hua Qingyun scratched his head. Sigh. Let's see if there are any decent rooms left. I really need to sleep a bit more. Meanwhile, countless bloody fist shadows rained down on Yu Jianxin. The massive gap in their cultivation was instantly exposed. Even at the 4th stage of the Purple Mansion realm, just blocking this single strike had left him seriously injured. Hovering in the air, Mozan sneered in mock admiration. Yu Jianxin, you truly live up to your name as the head disciple of the Qingyun sword sect. To think you could actually hold out this long. But, it's over now. Number 1, finish him. In a flash, number 1 launched into the air, radiating a terrifying, oppressive aura. Another massive, bloody fist shadow hurtled straight down at Yu Jianxin. Watching it crash towards him, Yu Jianxin's eyes flickered with deep despair. He silently apologized to Ziyun. He just couldn't hold on any longer. But right at that moment, a blazing red meteor suddenly flashed behind Mozan. The very next second, the entire formation was pierced straight through, and the meteor violently crashed into the ground right in front of Yu Jianxin. As the thick smoke cleared, 2 very different expressions appeared on everyone's faces. At that moment, blood puppets number 1 and number 2 lay scattered across the ground like shattered porcelain. Mozan finally snapped out of his shock, grabbing his head and screaming in absolute disbelief. No, how is this even possible? Staring up at the massive hole in the ceiling, Yu Jianxin's first thought was, Senior brother is safe. He figured one of the sect elders must have rushed over to save them. Just like him, Mo Zan didn't even consider Hua Qingyun. He also assumed a high-ranking elder had arrived. Panicking, he decided to end this fight right now. Blood puppet. Enhancement. The shattered flesh instantly fused together and lunged straight for Yu Jianqin. He tried to dodge, but felt his ankle get snatched by a sticky pile of gore. Just as things looked grim, Xi Yan's voice called out from behind. Sorry to keep you waiting, brother Yu. Xi Yan was completely engulfed in crackling purple energy. The overwhelming spiritual pressure of the 8th stage surged from his body. Mo Zan stared in horror, screaming that it was impossible. You're barely at the 4th stage. How the hell did you build up 8th stage power? The two intense auras, one violent purple and one bloody red, crashed fiercely into each other mid-air. In the end, the red light was completely devoured. The entire forest lit up with wild, dancing purple lightning. Meanwhile, back in his room, Hua Qingyun let out a loud yawn and strolled over to the window. He just wanted to get a breath of fresh air. But instead, he was greeted by the sight of a miniature mushroom cloud in the distance. Ah, what a peaceful day, he sighed happily. Then again, he figured that Demon Sect Elder must be pretty tough, making Junior Sister Yu and the others fight all night long. Hua Qingyun casually reached into his robes and pulled out a pocket watch. Click, he popped it open, back in the ruined forest. Yu Jianqin stared blankly at a massive crater, easily over 10 meters wide. The violent energy finally began to fade from Xi Yan's body. Looking at the disgusting red sludge left on the ground, he couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed onto his butt. That single strike had completely drained him dry. Yu Jianqin looked at the aftermath, absolutely amazed by the sheer explosive power of Xi Yan's attack. The purple-haired man weakly explained, "It's a secret technique of our sect. We can stockpile our spiritual energy and unleash it all at once. But, the flaw is pretty obvious. The charging time takes way too long." Yu Jianqin helped him to his feet. Xi Yan panted, thanking him for holding off those freaky blood puppets. Yu Jianqin quickly waved his hands. No, it was my duty. You don't need to thank me." But right at that moment, Mo Zan's furious roar echoed from above. Xi Yan struggled to lift his head, muttering that they still had one last bastard to deal with. Above them, Mo Zan's aura was going absolutely berserk. He growled through gritted teeth, You destroyed number 1. I spent decades of blood and sweat perfecting it." Seeing this sneaky rat still trying to act tough, Xi Yan grabbed his iron rod, wanting to bash his skull in. But he was so drained, just standing up was a struggle. Just then, a calm, steady voice reached their ears. "Step back, I'll handle him." With a sharp shing, Yu Jianqin drew his long sword and slowly levitated into the air. And now, Mo Zan had fully charged his attack. Several massive, bloody hands lunged aggressively at Yu Jianqin. A deafening sword ring echoed across the heavens. A brilliant flash of blue light sliced right through every single bloody hand. Shooting straight toward Mo Zan. Azure Cloud Sword Art. Absolute silence. The bloody hands instantly disintegrated into fine ash, drifting harmlessly around Yu Jianqin. Mo Zan was heavily pushed back. But, remembering the brutal fight they just had, he knew Yu Jianqin was already running on empty. "Let's see how many more strikes you can actually swing," he sneered. Right at that moment, Yu Jianqin let out a low shout. The sharp crack of shattering porcelain echoed beneath Mo Zan's feet, and the already damaged array completely collapsed in an instant. Only then did Mo Zan realize. Her previous sword strike was deliberately aiming for its weak point. "I never expected you could actually push me this far." As he spoke, a blood-red spiritual aura enveloped his fierce palms. It then transformed into a beam of light, shooting straight into his own forehead. Immediately after, Mo Zan's body began to age at a terrifying, visible rate. Yu Jianqin stared at the scene in absolute shock. She finally realized, Mo Zan was about to unleash a forbidden technique at a terrible cost. Just as she dashed forward to stop him, several blood-red beams suddenly exploded right behind her. "Oh no, my spiritual acupoints have been sealed." Yu Jianqin looked back in pure disbelief, only to find the two of them, their foreheads radiating the exact same dark aura as the Blood Fiend. Then, Mo Zan's maniacal laughter echoed through the air. He sneered at Yu Jianqin. "My Blood Fiend art isn't something you can purge so easily. Number 3, number 4, drag her over here. HMPH, even though your talent is absolutely brilliant. In front of me, you're nothing more than a naive, wet behind the ears brat. I'll use you as the very first sacrifice, an offering for my heaven-binding blood refining array." With that, a ghastly blood-red claw lunged straight at Yu Jianqin. A wave of deep regret flooded her mind. "I'm so sorry, Sect Master. Master, as a head disciple, I still lost to the demonic sect." She then thought of Hua Qingyun, and crystal-clear tears silently rolled down her cheeks. "And senior brother Hua, I was just too careless." Just as a bloody hand was about to pierce right through her, a cold, indifferent voice interrupted Mo Zan. "Stop. Let go of my junior sister." The sudden voice scared Mozan into whipping his head around. He frantically scanned his surroundings, wondering, where the hell did this Spirit Palace Realm cultivator pop out from? And where is the Azure Cloud Sword Sect Elder who killed Blood Ghost number 2? Seeing his panic, Hua Qingyun let out a helpless sigh, telling Mozan to stop looking. It's just me. Hearing this, little Yu Jianqin instantly panicked beyond belief. Senior brother, run away. You're no match for him. She cried out. Realizing Hua Qingyun was completely alone, Mozan flashed a cruel, twisted smile. Since you want to play the hero so badly, I'll just start by sacrificing you. Blood sacrifice. However, looking calmly at Mozan charging right at him, Hua Qingyun merely gave a casual snap of his fingers. Snap. The blood swamp surging around Mozan instantly shattered into pieces. Debris scattered into the wind. At the same moment, the dark spiritual energy in Ziyun's palms slowly faded away. The mind control of the Blood Fiend seed had been completely broken. Mozan trembled violently as he stared, stammering. That was a Blood Fiend seed reactivated by my own life essence. Its power was several times stronger than normal. No matter what supreme artifact or spell you have, it's impossible to break it instantly. But the purple-haired man didn't give him a chance to spew any more nonsense. Several thick chains shot forward, binding Mozan tightly. Ziyun bolted forward right behind the chains, unleashing a storm of staff strikes that danced wildly above Mozan's head. A violent surge of spiritual energy erupted, completely slamming Mozan face first into the dirt. Before the dust could even settle, Yu Jianqin rushed over to Hua Qingyun's side. Her beautiful eyes were filled with absolute confusion. Senior brother Hua, what in the world is going on? He was the lazy slacker senior brother that everyone looked down on, but in secret, he was actually a max-level boss hiding his true cultivation. Now, seeing his precious little junior sister in danger, all it took was a simple snap of his fingers to effortlessly crush a demonic sect elder who was an entire major realm above him. Before the smoke could even clear, little Yu Jianqin was already standing right in front of him. Begging to know exactly how he pulled that off, Hua Qingyun simply looked at his little junior sister and said, he just pulled a little trick. Back when he was purging the Blood Fiend seed from their minds, he noticed its roots were completely tangled up with the true spirits of Xian and his companion. Not wanting to damage their souls, he only cleared out the outer layers. And to stop them from being mind-controlled again, he left a few traces of sword aura in their heads. The moment that Demon Sect Elder tried to activate the seeds again, the sword aura would instantly snap the connection. Hearing Hua Qingyun's explanation, Xian and his companion hurriedly bowed in deep gratitude. Brother Hua, your foresight is absolutely incredible. I am truly in awe. In stark contrast, little Yu Jianqin looked completely bummed out. She pouted, Senior brother Hua, why didn't you tell me about this beforehand? What if the plan had failed? Looking at her sulking little face, Hua Qingyun was totally clueless. I mean, the plan worked, right? So what was there to be upset about? He let out a long sigh, and enthusiastically told little Yu Jianqin that she was the absolute key to defeating the Demon Elder. Her sadness vanished in a flash. Her big eyes stared at him in pure disbelief. Really? Seeing this, Hua Qingyun quickly played along, insisting, if I hadn't kept you in the dark, my dear junior sister, how could your acting have been so flawlessly genuine? How else could we have fooled that cunning old Demon Elder? Hearing this, Xian eagerly chimed in as well, telling Yu Jianqin that if it weren't for her, how could he have possibly gotten so close to that old bastard? Under their double-team brainwashing, little Yu Jianqin's big, innocent eyes slowly glazed over with goofy pride, and she let out a silly, hee hee hee. I guess you're right. Then, she looked up at Hua Qingyun with absolute adoration. She thought to herself, even though my senior brother's cultivation level is low, who would have thought he was actually a brilliant master strategist who can see through absolutely everything. Suddenly, a sly smirk crept onto Hua Qingyun's face as he thought to himself, if I knocked out the job before my shift even started, doesn't that mean I get to clock out early? But right as he was daydreaming about his sweet time off, a blinding pillar of light shot into the sky. The heaven-condensing blood array had been activated. Mozan's body slowly levitated off the ground. Staring at this mess, Hua Qingyun started mentally cursing out Mozan at the speed of light. And his entire family tree. Down on the ground, Mozan's wounds were healing rapidly right before their eyes. The blood corpses of Fiend number 1 and number 2 rapidly decomposed, their energy being completely sucked into Mozan's body. Hua Qingyun frowned. It looks like Mozan is trying to refine something. At that moment, a massive blood-red halberd began to form in mid-air. Seeing this, Yu Jianqin panicked and immediately slashed out with her sword. Azure Cloud Sword Art, Earth-Shattering Strike. A massive web of sword aura completely covered the sky above Mozan, aiming to rip him to absolute shreds. But a sinister smile appeared on Mozan's bloody lips. You're too late. The blood-red halberd swept across his front, effortlessly blocking every single wave of the raging sword aura. He looked up at the four of them and burst into maniacal laughter. The heaven-condensing blood array. is finally complete. Up in the air, the sword in Yu Jianxin's hand was visibly trembling. That strike just now took the absolute last ounce of strength she had. She glanced back at the others. Panting, our spiritual energy is totally drained. We need to fall back, right now. Just as everyone turned to flee, Hua Qingyun suddenly spoke up. You guys go on ahead. My time is almost up. Hearing this, the other three totally froze in shock. Yu Jianxin panicked. What are you waiting for? Hurry up. But before she could finish, a massive, blood-red shadow erupted into the sky. Trying to run? Mozan's furious roar echoed from within the blast. The giant bloody avatar instantly materialized, and its 4 massive arms reached out, violently snatching all 4 of them out of the air. Looking down at everyone powerless to fight back, Mozan threw his head back and laughed. He called them mere bugs, promising to show them what true hell looked like. Someone gasped weakly, is this guy, immortal? Staring at the figure engulfed in demonic light, little Yu Jianxin's face was filled with utter despair. He was just at level 5 of the Purple Palace realm. How the hell is he at level 8 now? Si Yun frowned in confusion. We're the sacrifices, and we're all right here. So how did Mozan complete the blood refining ritual? The purple-haired man muttered, trying to guess. Could he have absorbed those 2 blood fiends? Hearing this, Mozan shot them a smug, wicked grin. Bingo, he sneered. Number 1 and number 2 were actually part of my personal collection. I just didn't expect you rats to beat them. But Si Yun still felt something was off. Even if number 1 was insanely strong and counted for 2, number 2's power was basically on par with theirs. That would only make 3 sacrifices in total. Suddenly, his eyes widened in sheer horror. Wait, don't tell me. Mozan raised his halberd high. You guessed it right again. I can be a sacrifice myself. This is the Demon Lord's very first move to conquer the world. Demon core of the Crimson Fiend Blade. Compared to the sheer panic of Zi Yun's group, Hua Qingyun had a completely different reaction. He was just staring at his pocket watch, counting down the seconds. Yu Jianxin looked at her senior brother in total confusion, asking what on earth he was looking at. Meanwhile, the purple-haired man's face was pale with absolute dread. He had read the ancient texts about the Crimson Fiend Blade. Back in the day, the demon sect used that very blade to conquer more than half of the Kongyuan realm. In the end, it took the supreme immortal ascension experts from the 5 regions of the central state to step in and shatter it. That was the only way they ended the apocalypse. Mozan smirked, praising the purple-haired man for his vast knowledge. Once this sacrifice is complete, the Fiend Blade will be made whole again. With that, he raised the demon core high, ready to slaughter them all on the spot. But suddenly, ring, a loud work bell chimed through the air. Mozan froze dead in his tracks. What the hell is that noise? Hua Qingyun snapped his pocket watch shut and let out a long, heavy sigh. Well, look at the time. Time to clock in for work. Mozan stared at Hua Qingyun like he was a madman. Instantly, a brilliant blue sword beam tore through the heavens. The terrifying blood-red avatar was cleaved cleanly in 2. Hua Qingyun glared at Mozan with a hint of annoyance. That bell means, your time is up. Standing off to the side, Yu Jianxin was absolutely dumbfounded. She stared at her senior brother in total disbelief. Did you just fire that sword aura? Hua Qingyun completely ignored the question. He just waved his hand, urging them to leave. Get out of here, I'll handle this mess. Little Yu Jianxin opened her mouth to argue, but Hua Qingyun instantly cut her off. Junior sister, you guys need to leave immediately. Go set up the spirit locking array and protect the villagers. Hearing this, the panic on Yu Jianxin's face only grew worse. We need to call the elder who killed Blood Fiend number 2. Just a few of us can't possibly beat Mozan. Si Yun nodded in grim agreement. Right now, Mozan has the power of the 8th level of the Purple Palace realm. Even at our absolute peak, all of us combined couldn't take him down. Looking down at his junior sister's terrified face, Hua Qingyun just offered a gentle, reassuring smile. Don't worry, he said softly. I'll wrap this up real quick. Down on the ground, Mozan was staring up at Hua Qingyun in absolute shock. What the hell was that sword aura? He's supposed to be just a lowly spirit palace cultivator. By now, Yu Jianxin and the other 2 had already fled the scene. Hua Qingyun hovered alone in the sky, completely relaxed. Why you? Mozan stammered. What kind of secret artifact did you just use? Hua Qingyun looked down at Mozan with sheer disgust. To deal with a piece of trash like you? You think I need an artifact? Meanwhile, Yu Jianxin and the other 2 were sprinting toward the village as fast as they could. Si Yun asked frantically, are they really just going to leave Hua Qingyun behind like that? With his cultivation only at level 6 of the Spirit Palace realm, he'd be slapped to death in a single hit, right? Yu Jianxin bit his lip hard. He had to believe. He didn't know everything, but he believed in senior brother Hua. Ever since they came down the mountain, not a single decision senior brother Hua made had been wrong. Meanwhile, hovering above the forest after blocking the attack, Hua Qingyun flashed a smile that looked even more villainous than Mozan's. In stark contrast, Mozan's face was painted with absolute terror. Down below, 2 streaks of light dashed into the village. Yu Jianqin immediately set up the spirit-locking heaven binding array. In the next second, the entire village was enveloped by the formation. Hua Qingyun glanced at the village in surprise, then turned back to Mo Zan. Well now, I can finally go all out. Mo Zan was clearly infuriated by his arrogant tone. You don't seriously think that was my full strength, do you? Hearing this, Hua Qingyun just smirked. If you've got any tricks left, you'd better use them now, or you won't get another chance. Mo Zan was a demon of high standing. When had he ever been humiliated like this? His demon phantom hoisted its weapon high, and a bloody demonic aura began surging toward the tip of the spear. A furious roar shook the sky. Ultimate, blood, slash. The violent demonic energy sheared the top right off a massive mountain. A smug, victorious grin spread across Mo Zan's face. But a split second later, a figure reflected in his blood-red pupils. Mo Zan's smile instantly vanished. Hua Qingyun was floating effortlessly right above the demon phantom, staring down at him in dead silence. Seriously? That's it? Mo Zan let out a booming roar. You're courting death. The demon phantom thrust its spear upward, gathering an even denser pool of blood-red energy. 100% power, heaven-shattering, demon light. Mo Zan's manic laughter echoed violently through the sky. Meanwhile, directly above the village, Xian and the others watched the massive pillar of bloody light connecting heaven and earth just a short distance away. Their backs were completely drenched in cold sweat. Is this the true power of a demonic weapon? Crystal clear tears rolled down little Yu Jianqin's cheeks. He clasped his hands tightly against his chest, praying desperately that Hua Qingyun would be okay. Back on the battlefield, Mo Zan was staring ahead in absolute horror. Hua Qingyun's mocking voice drifted into his ears. Flashy moves are nice and all, but what's the point if you can't even hit your target? The moment he spoke, several streaks of blinding sword aura slashed down from the heavens. They smashed right into the blood-red pillar of light, making a sickening, cracking sound. Watching his ultimate attack shatter and fade into nothingness, Mo Zan felt like he had to be having a nightmare. Suddenly, Hua Qingyun materialized right in front of him again. Let me guess what you're thinking. You're wondering how mere ant at the Spirit Palace realm could play you like a fiddle so easily, right? It's simple, really. I sealed away my true cultivation level. Then, casually deflecting Mo Zan's frantic strikes, Hua Qingyun started venting. I've never dared to cultivate in front of others. I was terrified that an accidental breakthrough would summon a heavenly tribulation right on top of me. Plus, as a sect disciple, showing off too much is never a good idea. You know what they say, with great power comes a mountain of absolute bullshit. So, just to live a peaceful, easy life, I had to hide my true strength. Hearing this absolute insanity, Mo Zan burned every last drop of his cultivation and bolted for his life. He cursed Hua Qingyun as an absolute psychopath under his breath. But before he could get very far, Hua Qingyun abruptly warped right behind him. An ice-cold, detached voice sent shivers down his spine. You kept ruining my relaxation time, you hurt my companions, and you forced me to come out of hiding way too early. Feeling the suffocating killing intent radiating from behind him, Mo Zan scrambled desperately, fighting for his life to get away from Hua Qingyun. Your sins are unforgivable. A terrifying tsunami of sword aura crashed down upon Mo Zan, swallowing him and the very earth itself in its overwhelming power. Leaves fluttered in the wind, swirling through the air, as a lone figure hovered in the sky. Far below him lay a massive, water-filled crater. This was the exact same guy Elder Han always complained about. The one who slacked off and did absolutely nothing all day. But even he had a line you just didn't cross, and that was their adorable little junior sister, Yu Jianqin. She was strictly off limits. Just look at that reckless demon sect elder who dared to try. He was blasted into absolute nothingness. Not even dust remained. Even though Hua Qingyun had sealed away most of his power, it was still utterly terrifying. Just the shockwave from the sword strike that obliterated Mo Zan was enough to tear the very earth apart, carving out a massive canyon of sword aura miles long. Staring at the horrifyingly massive crater in the distance, Yu Jianqin and the other two were completely speechless. They turned to ask Yu Jianqin, is Hua Qingyun really not an elder of your Azure Cloud Sword sect? The power of that strike, that was easily on par with an immortal Ascension Realm Master. Little Yu Jianqin was still standing there in absolute shock. So, senior brother Hua's true level has already surpassed every single disciple in the sect. Thinking about this, a soft blush crept onto her cheeks. Compared to him, what does my title as the top disciple even mean? Suddenly, the sharp sound of shattering glass echoed from beneath their feet. Yu Jianqin gasped. Oh no. The spiritual shockwaves from the battle were too much. The spirit locking barrier was about to shatter. She quickly yelled at Ziyun and the other guy to evacuate the villagers, while she stayed behind to keep the array stable. With her remaining spiritual energy, she wouldn't last long. She could only pray they'd hurry. Just save as many villagers as you can. But right at that desperate moment, a warm hand suddenly reached out, instantly stabilizing the fracturing barrier for her. Yu Jianqin turned her wide, bewildered eyes to her side. It was Hua Qingyun. When did he even get back to the village? As the crumbling barrier slowly mended itself, Hua Qingyun flashed her a gentle smile. You can drop the barrier now, little junior sister. Yu Jianqin finally snapped out of her daze. Senior brother Hua, she cried out in pure joy. Soon after, the four of them were surrounded by the grateful villagers, bowing in deep thanks. But little Yu Jianqin kept looking down, lost in thought. Finally, she looked up at Hua Qingyun, her big eyes filled with a hint of grievance. If you were this strong all along, why didn't you tell me sooner? But then, the mood completely shifted. Hua Qingyun blinked, looking absolutely clueless. Huh? What are you talking about? He asked, before quickly explaining things to his little junior sister. The only reason I pulled that off was because Master gave me a life-saving sword talisman. Hearing this, the three of them exchanged incredibly confused looks. Wait, so that heaven-shattering strike wasn't your own power, senior brother? Yu Jianqin still wasn't buying it. She pressed him again. Hua Qingyun immediately clutched his chest, putting on a dramatic, heartbroken expression. Jianqin, I'm just a weak little scrub at the 6th level of the Spirit Palace realm. How could I possibly have that kind of crazy power? He sighed, then quickly bowed to thank the three of them. Honestly, if you guys hadn't fought so hard to hold him off, I wouldn't have even had the time to activate the talisman. Plus, you guys had already worn that Mo Zan down to his absolute last breath. The talisman just finished him off. I just got super lucky, that's all. I totally just swooped in and stole the kill. Listening to his excuses, Yu Jianqin clearly still didn't believe a word of it. But then again, she did see him dodging Mo Zan's attacks earlier with her own eyes. Wait, suddenly, it was like little Yu Jianqin had just pieced together a massive clue. Actual stars began to sparkle in her wide, adoring eyes. Seeing this, no matter how thick-skinned Hua Qingyun was, even he started sweating a little. He awkwardly coughed and explained, I actually specialize in evasion and movement techniques, so I'm just really good at running away. He quickly deflected, bringing up their master once again. You know this too, junior sister. My master, Hull Chief Yu, is literally the #1 evasion expert in the entire sect. As soon as he finished speaking, Yu Jianqin threw out another question, asking how he managed to stabilize the spirit-locking heaven-bearing array. A massive array like that, it's not exactly something a Spirit Palace realm cultivator could pull off, right? Hua Qingyun simply reached into his robe and pulled out a piece of green jade. He told the group, well, by using this spirit-storing jade, of course. The three of them blurted out the name in unison. The spirit-storing jade, a type of spirit stone capable of storing spiritual energy and drawing it out whenever needed. Because it's incredibly expensive to make, and only good for a single use, it isn't exactly popular. Seeing Hua Qingyun smoothly talk his way out of all her questions, her woman's intuition still told her that something was off. Seeing Yu Jianqin still looking a bit hesitant, a large, warm hand gently rested on her head. He gave her hair a gentle ruffle. Stop overthinking things. Junior sister, if I were really that powerful, don't you think the sect master and our master would have noticed by now? You're the true top disciple of our Qingyun sword sect. That's a solid fact. Her delicate little face instantly burned bright red. Little Yu Jianqin quickly turned her back to him, scolding Hua Qingyun for catching her off guard again. Meanwhile, Ziyun, desperate to escape being the third wheel, quickly asked Hua Qingyun where that crimson demonic weapon went. At the mention of this, Hua Qingyun let out a heavy sigh and told the two of them. That demonic weapon is completely overflowing with dark energy. It's too dangerous to touch right now, but I've already set up an array to keep it suppressed. A little while later, 4 silhouettes appeared in the sky above the ruined forest. Below them, a blood-red halberd stood firmly planted in the earth. Yu Jianqin urged that they needed to report the demon sect's plot back to their own sect immediately, so all the major factions could brace themselves. Nodding in agreement, Hua Qingyun reached out to retrieve the demon fetus. When suddenly, a blood-red barrier violently repelled his grasp. Demonic light began to aggressively swirl around the halberd, glowing brightly as it let out a sickening, bubbling sound. Yu Jianqin shouted in a panic, someone is trying to pull the demon fetus away. At that exact moment, a swirling vortex of blood materialized right above the halberd, slowly beginning to swallow it whole. Suddenly, the sharp, deafening ring of a sword echoed through the air. A blinding flash of sword aura pierced right through the barrier and shot directly into the bloody vortex. Ziyun stammered out in pure panic, It must be a master from the demon sect. They're snatching the demon fetus away. But tragically, with all three of them completely drained of spiritual energy, they were utterly powerless to stop it. Yu Jianqin's voice was heavy with defeat. A flash of deep anger crossed Hua Qingyun's eyes. But to keep his junior sister from finding out the truth, he was forced to hold back his true strength, allowing the demon fetus to slip away. Still, that last sword strike, combined with the sealing array he had hidden on it, should be more than enough to stop whoever was pulling it. Meanwhile, deep inside a gloomy cave, dim candlelight flickered ominously. Dark crimson demonic energy was being sucked into the body of an ancient, withered figure. It was none other than Patriarch Xianxia, the very same man Hua Qingyun had slashed down to a mere remnant soul back in episode 1. Having finally reconstructed his physical body, he cackled madly, swearing he would tear Hua Qingyun to shreds. But suddenly, the wicked smile vanished from his face. I bow before you, my lord. His voice trembled with absolute reverence. It seems you have fully reconstructed your physical vessel. A cold, indifferent voice echoed through the cavern. Patriarch Xianxia flashed a sickeningly sweet, groveling smile. If it weren't for you, my lord, graciously rebuilding my flesh, I never would have been able to return. The echoing voice cut him off. Mo Zan is dead, but right before his death, he successfully completed the heaven-condensing blood refining array. Managed to forge the demon fetus. However, when I attempted to summon it back to me, some outside force interfered. The demon fetus was lost in the process. Xianxia flinched, visibly terrified by the news. After all, the entity standing before him was an absolute powerhouse, standing at the very pinnacle of this world. The blood-red figure told him exactly who had managed to snatch the demon seed right out of his hands. The demon seed had now fallen into the Yanqin mountain range of Qingyun province. He was ordered to retrieve it immediately. After saying that, the figure tossed him 3 more magical artifacts, reminding him of the blood amber bead he had lost last time. If you fail again this time, you know exactly what the consequences will be. Meanwhile, back in the village, Xiyun and Feng waved goodbye to Hua Qingyun and his group. Yu Jianqin waved back at them, calling out, "Be careful on your way back." High above the forest, 2 streaks of purple light flashed across the sky. I never would have guessed. That the demon cloud sect was actually plotting to reforge the demonic weapon, Feng said to Xiyun. But honestly, compared to something way out of our league like that, I'm much more curious about our friend, Taoist Hua. Hearing this, Xiyun looked completely confused. What about him? He asked. Feng looked at him. Didn't you notice? This whole incident was entirely under Hua Qingyun's control. Think about it, from the moment we left the inn, to his specific instructions, all the way to the antidote pills we took right after entering the forest. And then the sudden appearance of that bloody skull during the fight. And finally, just when we were on the brink of despair as the demon seed was fully formed, Taoist Hua stepped in at the perfect moment. If even a single one of those steps had been missing, I'm afraid we would have all been completely consumed by that heaven-condensing blood array. Xiyun listened, and after thinking it over, realized he was absolutely right. Then, Feng leaned in and added, "That's not all. Do you remember that antidote pill we swallowed? I used my inner vision to check my body at the time, and guess what? I found a layer of invisible sword energy swirling inside me. I bet what we swallowed wasn't a normal pill at all. It was a sword pill, infused with a wisp of pure sword energy. And the only reason we weren't poisoned back there is because the sword energy hidden inside that pill completely shredded any toxins trying to enter our bodies." Xiyun's jaw dropped, and he immediately shook his head. "No way. How is that even possible?" With sheer awe in his voice, Feng explained, "As long as someone has reached an incredibly high level of mastery in the way of the sword, then theoretically, yes, it's completely possible." Xiyun scratched his head. But, if Taoist Hua is obviously that strong, why is he trying so hard to hide it? Feng mirrored Xiyun, scratching the back of his own head. Probably because a tall tree catches the wind, right? Think about it. Hua Qingyun is most likely a secret weapon, being quietly raised by the Qingyun sword sect. Xiyun looked unsure. "Should we report this to our sect?" he asked. The two of them exchanged a long glance. Then, Feng chuckled softly. "Since Taoist Hua clearly doesn't want to show off his true strength, we'd better keep our mouths shut. After all, he literally saved our lives. We need to respect his choice. Still, with the Qingyun sword sect hiding a peerless genius like him, next month's Prodigy tournament is going to be seriously entertaining to watch." Meanwhile, in the skies above a different mountain range, little Yu Jianxin's excited voice echoed from the transmission stone into Wen Jian's ears. He turned his head to look at Hua Qingyun. "The sect master wants us to return to the sect immediately." Hua Qingyun just smiled faintly. "Those two siblings are pretty sharp," he murmured. Little Yu Jianxin stared blankly at her senior brother. "Huh? What smart people?" "Oh, nothing. Let's get going," Hua Qingyun replied. As he spoke, he quietly dispersed the massive sword energy lingering behind him. If their sect master had noticed that, he thought to himself, that would have been a real headache. Suddenly, Yu Jianxin called out his name. Looking at him dead in the eye, she asked, "Are you absolutely sure you aren't hiding your true cultivation level?" "Junior sister, why would I lie to you? I'm just a weak little level 6 of the Spirit Palace realm. I can't even compare to a genius like you," Hua Qingyun protested with a laugh. Yu Jianxin simply lowered her head in silence. Without warning, a vicious flash of sword light instantly slashed right at Hua Qingyun. "Jianxin?" he shouted in absolute disbelief. Sounding a bit confused, Yu Jianxin didn't reply. Her pupils shrank as a flash of her sword aimed straight for Hua Qingyun's chest. Smack! A pink book slipped out from his robes. Before Hua Qingyun could even react, Yu Jianxin snatched it right up, staring at the book in her hands. She let out a weird little hee-hee laugh. The cover read, My Junior Sister and I, Volume 1, A Cultivation Journey Too Spicy to Tell. Little Yu Jianxin's brain completely short-circuited on the spot. Seeing his chance, Hua Qingyun snatched the book right back, scrambling to explain. This is super popular in the mortal realm. It's called a novel. At that moment, the perfect image of her amazing senior brother Hua shattered into a million pieces in her mind. She stammered, as senior brother. I can't believe you're actually into. Hua Qingyun frantically flipped through the pages, insisting to her. Title is just clickbait. I swear, it's a totally serious, hardcore adventure story. It is definitely not what you're thinking. But the second those words left his mouth, a spicy, full-page illustration popped right up. Flustered, little Yu Jianxin immediately whipped her head away. Hua Qingyun started panicking again, begging her not to get the wrong idea. This is called an illustration. They just put them in the middle, just to hook the readers. Look, the story is actually about a guy living in his sect. And going on quests with his junior sisters. That's it. It's a totally pure, traditional adventure story. It's super famous among both mortals and cultivators. Plus, a new volume only drops once every 3 months. He then stared at the spicy artwork with dead serious dedication, adding, and a limited edition with these kinds of illustrations. You have to camp out all night in line just to buy one. It's super rare, okay? After his frantic speech, little Yu Jianxin's expression finally softened a bit. She apologized for attacking him out of nowhere, and promised to pay him some spirit stones to make up for it. But secretly, her mind was racing. That sword strike just now. Senior brother Hua didn't dodge or block at all. Even his robes got slashed. Is he really not hiding his true strength? Even so, she didn't miss the chance to guilt-trip him out loud. You really need to read less of that trash, senior brother. These so-called novels are strictly forbidden in our Azure Cloud Sword sect. You know what the sect master always says. Indulging in cheap thrills destroys your ambition. You have great talent, you know. You should be focusing all your energy on cultivation. Hua Qingyun forced a stiff, awkward smile. Why yes, of course. I'll keep your wise words in mind, junior sister. Nodding, Yu Jianxin turned around and told him it was time to hit the road. Seeing her turn away, Hua Qingyun let out a massive sigh of relief. Thank God, he thought. After that little test, she must have completely dropped her suspicions about me. But suddenly, the sharp ring of a sword echoed behind him. A blade of light shot straight toward his precious limited edition book. My baby, acting purely on instinct, must protect. He casually swatted the deadly sword energy away with his bare hand. Boom, a massive explosion went off, instantly flattening the mountain peak they'd been training on for 2.5 years. Hua Qingyun grimaced. Can we just pretend you didn't see that? Senior brother, even a level 7 Violet Mansion expert wouldn't dare catch my strike barehanded, let alone completely slap it away. Yu Jianxin's calm, chilling voice drifted from beside him. Hearing that, Hua Qingyun just gave up on playing dumb. He awkwardly rubbed his neck, admitting he might have been hiding just a teeny tiny bit of his true power. In a flash, little Yu Jianxin zoomed right up to his face. So, she whispered, is your swordsmanship actually stronger than mine? Maybe just a teeny tiny bit stronger? Hua Qingyun replied nervously. Hearing his confession, a sly, wicked little smirk crept onto Yu Jianxin's face. Well then, she grinned. I can totally keep your little secret, senior brother. But, you have to promise me one thing. Hua Qingyun shrank back, a little spooked. What is it? He asked. He was met with an adorable, eager little face. Senior brother, she pleaded, would you please teach me some swordplay? Even though they were martial siblings, the way the sect treated them was like night and day. Junior sister Yu Jianxin was the golden girl of the sect. After just 20-some years of cultivation, she had already reached the 4th tier of the Purple Mansion realm. The elders absolutely adored her. But her senior brother, Hua Qingyun? The whole sect considered him a total deadbeat. He spent his days either slacking off, doing absolutely nothing, or just burying his face in cheap novels. His cultivation was stuck at the beginner spirit palace realm, a complete weakling. But today, the tables had completely turned. The prodigy junior sister was actually begging him for sword lessons. The truth was, Hua Qingyun had already reached the absolute peak of power in this world. But, to avoid repeating his past life's tragic mistake of working a grueling 996 schedule, which literally made him drop dead from exhaustion, he had deliberately sealed his own cultivation. He managed to fool the sect master and all the top experts, but somehow, he couldn't fool his pure-hearted junior sister, Yu Jianxin. She promised that as long as he taught her how to use a sword, she'd keep his little secret safe. Hua Qingyun thought back to how this whole mission went down. Originally, he just wanted to tag along and ride his junior sister's coattails. He just wanted a free 3-day vacation. But now, he felt like he was the one getting scammed. Still, looking at the lively, adorable girl in front of him, he let out a sigh and agreed. Hearing that, little Yu Jianxin beamed with excitement. Don't worry, senior brother. She cheered. My lips are completely sealed. She giggled, playfully rushing him so they could hurry back to the sect. A gentle breeze carried fallen leaves into the grand hall. Little Yu Jianxin cheerfully bounded in, greeting the elders and the hall masters. The moment they saw their precious darling, they immediately showered her with praise for doing such a great job again. Then, they crowded around her, anxiously asking if she had gotten hurt. Right then, Hua Qingyun's lazy drawl echoed through the room. Greetings, sect master, elders, and hall masters. The moment they heard that voice, the smiles on the elders' faces instantly vanished. Every single one of them suddenly looked furious. They glared at him, demanding to know if he had dragged Yu Jianxin down during the mission. If Jianxin got hurt trying to protect you, once that, we'll make sure you pay dearly for it. Hua Qingyun rolled his eyes, cursing inwardly. Wow, talk about double standards. If it weren't for me, your precious top disciple would have been turned into human paste by now. Just then, Wen Jian spoke up. He scolded the elders sharply. Enough. If Qingyun hadn't activated the sword talisman in time during this mission, we never would have been able to kill that demon sect elder. Seeing Wen Jian actually stand up for him, Qingyun was absolutely thrilled. Haha, looks like bribing him with all those premium tea leaves actually paid off. An elder scoffed coldly. That sword talisman was given to him by Hall Master Ji Yu. The boy simply activated it, nothing more. Someone immediately chimed in. Exactly, Hall Master Ji Yu is the real hero of this mission. Ji Yu listened to all this, staring at them with a completely blank expression. Hua Qingyun is my disciple, he said flatly. Giving him a sword talisman for protection is only natural. Hearing Ji Yu play along, the elders quickly began kissing up to him. We had no idea your sword mastery had reached such profound heights. To think the power of a single talisman could obliterate a demon sect elder wielding a demon fetus. Incredible, but, in Ji Yu's mind, he clearly remembered that the talisman he gave Hua Qingyun only had the power of the third tier of the Purple Mansion realm. He cast a highly suspicious look at his disciple. Wait, did I accidentally give him the wrong talisman? Hua Qingyun felt Ji Yu staring at him and instantly felt guilty. He awkwardly shuffled back a couple of steps. Seeing the whole hall finally quiet down, Wen Jian moved on to the main topic of the meeting, figuring out how to better deal with the demon sect's upcoming movements. He turned to Yu Jianxin. Please, he asked, tell us exactly what happened during the mission, in full detail. As the cool moonlight spilled over Hua Qingyun, he felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had never felt so relaxed. Starting tomorrow, he was completely free. 3 whole days off. Oh, he was definitely going to plan this out perfectly. Suddenly, a cheerful voice interrupted his thoughts. Little Yu Jianxin popped up out of nowhere, excitedly telling Hua Qingyun that according to their promise, he had to teach her swordplay. Hearing this, Hua Qingyun quickly waved his hands, saying he was busy these next few days and asked for a rain check. But Yu Jianxin insisted that the thought of getting pointers from such an amazing senior brother made her unable to wait a single second longer. Hearing this, Hua Qingyun still tried to sweet-talk his little junior sister. He claimed that their recent mission had worn them out, and he really needed some rest before he'd have the energy to teach her. The next second, massive teardrops welled up in little Yu Jianxin's eyes. Her acting skills were off the charts. Looking completely pitiful, she whimpered that Hua Qingyun had just been chilling in the inn, while she was the one doing all the fighting all night long. She hadn't even complained about being tired, so how could he? Hua Qingyun couldn't hold back anymore. What the heck, I was the one who put in the most work, alright? Instantly, the pitiful look on her face vanished. Her little hands tightly grabbed onto Hua Qingyun's clothes as she frantically told him that if he didn't teach her swordplay tonight, she was going to expose their relationship to everyone. Hua Qingyun was scared half to death. He quickly told Yu Jianxin to stop spouting nonsense. But little Yu Jianxin refused to let go, clinging desperately to his collar. She called him a big, fat, backstabbing liar. Finally, she heard Hua Qingyun cave in. He told Yu Jianxin to come to his place tonight, and he would give her one lesson in the way of the sword. But until she mastered it, she was forbidden from bothering him again. Little Yu Jianxin eagerly agreed. Hua Qingyun quickly added, and make sure no one sees you. If anyone catches you coming to my place, tomorrow the crazy disciples and elders will chop me to pieces and hang me from the roof. No problem. See you tonight, senior brother. Her voice was filled with excitement. Soon, the cold moonlight completely replaced the warm sun. A slender figure appeared right in front of Hua Qingyun. Hua Qingyun looked incredibly serious. Junior sister, you're here. His tone caught little Yu Jianxin off guard. She thought to herself, could it be that senior brother is taking this sword lesson so seriously? But right as her mind wandered, Hua Qingyun's stern voice spoke again. Just a moment ago, I found out something incredibly important. Little Yu Jianxin looked at her senior brother in utter confusion. She asked him what it was. The brand new idol album is dropping the day after tomorrow. After saying that, Hua Qingyun started pacing around in a panic. He started cursing the entire bloodline of the demon sect. It's all because those demon sect bastards destroyed Xianxia City. The release event was forced to move to Yanqin City, 10,000 miles away. After his rant, Hua Qingyun finally realized he had lost his cool. He cleared his throat and said he had to leave for Yanqin City first thing tomorrow. So, as for the sword lesson, I'm only teaching you once tonight. Right after that, Hua Qingyun told little Yu Jianqin to attack him with everything she had. Hearing this, Yu Jianqin looked a bit panicked. She told him that if she went all out, "Senior brother, I'm afraid your house might." Hearing this, Hua Qingyun just gently waved her over. He smirked, telling her she didn't have what it takes to destroy his house just yet. Her nervous expression instantly vanished, replaced by a face burning with fighting spirit. "Alright then, senior brother, watch yourself." As soon as she spoke, she raised her long sword high above her head. Sword aura and spiritual energy intertwined along the blade. Azure clouds of the ninth heaven. A massive wave of blue sword energy instantly lit up the entire mountain range. Hua Qingyun stared straight ahead with a deadly serious expression. "Good sword," he muttered. Yet, he casually raised a single arm. The very moment the sword aura touched his palm, Yu Jianqin's full power strike completely shattered from the center, bursting into countless streaks of light. And shooting straight up into the heavens. Right now, her stunning little face was absolutely filled with shock. Her pride shattered right along with her fading attack. She fell to her knees in front of Hua Qingyun, and forced out those three bitter words. "I have lost." Seeing this, Hua Qingyun told his junior sister, Yu Jianqin, that nothing in this world is ever truly perfect. "The same goes for sword techniques," he explained. "I simply found the flaw in your strike, and crushed it with my spiritual energy, that's all. As long as you keep fixing the weak points in your technique, and cultivate it to the absolute limit, when that day comes, even if you're just holding a simple blade of grass, you can cut down the sun, moon, and stars." Those words echoed endlessly in little Yu Jianqin's mind. She had been with the Azure Cloud Sword sect for over 20 years. Every single day, she trained bitterly in the ways of the sword, constantly pondering the Tao of the sword. Even though she had become the chief disciple, a realm like cutting down the stars with a single blade of grass was something she never even dared to imagine. Suddenly, Hua Qingyun's voice pulled her back to reality. "Watch closely, junior sister." As he spoke, a stone floor tile flew high into the air. The very second he landed back on the ground, Hua Qingyun formed his two fingers into a sword and danced wildly through the air. Study the sword marks on this stone slab carefully. It's enough to push your mastery of the sword to a whole new level. With that, the stone slab flew right toward Yu Jianqin. Her two little hands were trembling slightly as she reached out to grab both sides of the slab. What caught her eye was the word sword, carved with bold, flying strokes. Hua Qingyun brought a finger to his lips, and warned little Yu Jianqin that under no circumstances should she let anyone else see it. "Yes," her sweet voice rang out. In the blink of an eye, her slender figure leapt into the air. "Thank you for the guidance, senior brother. I'm going back to study it right now." Watching her fading silhouette, Hua Qingyun just scratched his head. Is she planning to pull an all-nighter? "Junior sister, you're grinding way too hard. Take care of your health, alright?" The night passed in silence. The warm morning sun poured through the window into the room, where stacks of pink-covered books were neatly arranged together. "Alright, time to head to Cloud Zenith City." Suddenly, Hua Qingyun looked out the window in surprise. A flash of blue light zipped right past his estate. Is Master heading out today too? Meanwhile, Gu, who was flying rapidly through the sky, suddenly saw his face turn incredibly dark. "Fellow cultivator, you've been tailing me for quite a while. Aren't you tired?" His cold, indifferent voice echoed through the space. An arrogant laugh rang out from up ahead, and a blood-red figure materialized out of thin air. "I was just curious, is Hallmaster Gu really as fast as the rumors say? But it seems you're nothing special after all." Seeing this man, Gu's face flashed with panic. It was the Demon Cloud Sect Master, Xianxia. Immediately after, he demanded to know, "How exactly Xianxia knew you would be showing up here?" "Who knows, maybe a little birdie told me?" Xianxia's mocking voice drifted into Gu's ears. Hearing this, Gu kept his face completely neutral. He wanted to keep fishing for information, asking him what he was plotting by planting spies inside the Azure Cloud Sword sect. "What exactly are you scheming?" Hearing this, Xianxia gave him a mocking look and told Gu that his goal had never changed. "Why bother stalling for time? Ever since you noticed my presence, you've been secretly charging up your sword formation. By now, that formation of yours should be just about ready, shouldn't it?" "I see. It seems Sect Master Xiang is very confident." As soon as the words fell, his cultivation at the Ascension Realm completely erupted. Space around him began to tear apart, inch by inch. In the very next second, countless sword lights shot toward Xianxia all at once. Seeing this, Xianxia let out an arrogant, maniacal laugh. He compressed his dark red demonic aura tightly onto his fist. "Let's see if this sword formation you've spent all this time building up can survive a single punch from me." Meanwhile, over in Yanqin City, Hua Qingyun, who had just arrived, was just about to check where the book launch event was, when his heart suddenly jolted violently. He sensed it. The protective sword energy he had given to his master had just been triggered. Panic immediately washed over his face. Master is at stage 1 of the Ascension realm, and with his mastery of shield techniques, an opponent capable of threatening his life must be an expert at stage 4 of the Ascension realm, at the very least. At this moment, the once dense mountain forest had been reduced to complete ruins. Ji Yu, drenched in his own blood, was being held up by his neck in mid-air. So, this is your life-saving artifact? Xiangba inspected the jade pendant in his hand with mild curiosity. To think the protective sword energy inside actually took one of my punches for you. Not bad at all. Ji Yu stared miserably at the jade pendant hovering before him. He remembered the time Qingyun, wanting to thank him for all his everyday guidance, had specially gifted him this little token of appreciation. The memory faded. Xiangba compressed his dark red demonic aura once again, coldly warning Ji Yu. At this time, he absolutely would not miss. Not long before this, a mysterious rune glowed brightly on Hua Qingyun's chest. Releasing this much power should be enough. With that said, he brought his index and middle fingers together in front of his chest. Waves of invisible ripples spread outward into the air. Hua Qingyun silently focused his mind. The location of the jade pendant is. Immediately, the shadowy figure of Xiangba appeared in his mind. The pendant's location was locked on. Qingyun sword art, Dawnbreak. A terrifying beam of spiritual energy ripped right through the fabric of space. It instantly appeared directly above Xiangba's head. As the smoke and dust finally cleared, Xiangba's figure looked completely battered and wretched. His right fist had completely vanished. He pressed his left hand fiercely against his bleeding wound, picking up a shredded piece of fabric from the ground. Veins bulged violently across his face. Ji Yu, next time we meet, I swear I'll kill you.